Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast Channels 6 and 22. Channel 6 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 8, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.
November 1st, 2023 Budget Recommendations Committee meeting. We are in the midst of reviewing the FY 2024 budget requests from the various departments. And we'll continue with the Public Works General review tonight, but before that, we'll introduce ourselves. I'm Bob Kelly, the chair of the committee, and on the Water and Sewer and the Public Works General subcommittees. Chris?
I am Chris Suter, and I am in charge of Parks and Rec, Library, Welfare, and Human Services.
Corey Stevens, Finance Director.
Rustine, Town Manager.
Andrew Elliott. I'm on the Public Works General Subcommittee.
Amanda Kelly, Public Works General, Library, Health and Human Services, and Parks and Rec.
Garden Reeves on the Water and Sewer Subcommittee.
Anna Grazier, I'm on the General Government Subcommittee.
Anthony Swan, 7 Marble Street, on the Water and Sewer Subcommittee.
And off mic this evening, at least for the time being, are Nancy Belanger, the Select Board Representative this evening, as well as Paul Vlasich, the Interim Public Works Director, Jay Perkins, the Highway Superintendent, and Jeff Beck, the Maintenance Supervisor for the towns. Is that the correct title, guys? Hopefully it's close. As I mentioned tonight, we'll be reviewing the general public works, which is basically all of the various divisions and sections of public works, except for the water and sewer departments. Andrew Elliott and Amanda Kelly and myself spoke with Jay and Jeff, as well as Tricia Allen on the various components. And welcome back, Paul. Hopefully you're sporting some elk in your freezer. Or how'd the trip go? Excellent. Okay, so we'll begin. It's on page 20 of the budget book. Begin with the administration. Most of the items that Jay and Jeff presented are, as you see in your budget. There are a couple of items. The narrative that we wrote up sort of explains some of our discussions. If anyone has any questions as we go down, even if it means ping-ponging around, that is more than fine. So we'll start with admin. Just a heads up on the salary and wages, full-time, 51110, the GIS tech that we requested or that we approved last year has not yet been filled, which is why partially the reason why the actuals are a little bit off. And just for bookkeeping, if you look at the second line, 51200, part-time wages, I'm not thinking that 5,092 is that a real number? That we've actually used that on part-time this year, Corey? Because it doesn't seem anywhere close to what we've usually spent.
51200 is at $6,200.
Oh, really? So it's legit. Is that related to just the River Committee Secretary? Or are there other things in there?
No, so we carried a budget of $1, right? In
Right.
2023. So we have one employee who has gone down to part-time.
Got it.
Who was full-time.
Okay.
That employee is filling the role of the engineering tech and basically working remotely and helping us out in that regard with stormwater issues.
Excellent. It just seemed like such an outlier. Wanted to ask the question. Okay. As we had noted in the, so that's all we had on admin. Any questions by any of the subcommittee or the full committee?
Mr. Chair, we'll have some health and mental updates whenever you're ready.
Go for it.
Yep. So 52-100 PWA health insurance, new number 165,103, 165,103. PWA dental insurance, $11,613, 11613. Life insurance, $551. Long-term disability, $959.
For a new benefits total of?
$308,633, 308,633.
Excellent, thank you. The subcommittee had no other changes in this section. If there are no further questions, we'll get a final updated admin cost.
Quick question.
Oh, sure.
I'm sure it's in a note, but I just haven't had a chance to digest that. 55058, it's not a huge amount, but contracted services moved to CIP. Can someone just remind me what that refers to?
What was the number again?
I think it was line number 55058. Contracted services moved to CIP.
I can't find it.
Is that just an old note?
I think that is an old note.
That's just an old note.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, okay. Scratch that.
Oh, there.
So Corey, the updated totals?
Admin and engineering, new total, $578,192, 578,192.
I will move that subtotal.
So moved?
You gonna second it?
Yeah.
I moved it.
Oh,
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the revised budget for admin signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you. On to highways and streets. You'll notice a number of items there. We made the note that a lot of these projects are done in the fall. And since our budgets are just actuals up to June, many of these are either close to being spent or certainly well into projects that Jay and Jeff are proceeding ahead on, notably asphalt work and paving and street markings, things like that. One item that came up this summer is item 55310 down at the bottom of the page, tree maintenance. The department, in conjunction with a number of volunteers, has put together a tree committee that is in response to our town being selected as a tree community, what, 3 or 4 years ago, I think it was now. So we thought it'd be worthwhile, if we're going to be a tree community, to have some sort of support for the activities required for that. And the request has been around $20,000 over the last several years. There was a request this year to add $5,000 to support, in general, what this committee was. Since this budget was put together, the committee has come up with a couple of pieces of equipment, notably a water tank that can be used remotely to water trees in town that aren't necessarily near irrigation ports, as well as some education and outreach activities that the committee has outlined. And let me see if I have that memo. Do you have that off the top of your head, Shay? Here we go. So the request was for a chipper body as well as a water tank truck add-on for existing public works equipment that could go around town. There was a request for 8 plantings a year, which is $5,000. contract services for, to sort of complete or ongoing and complete a tree inventory in town, as well as a little over $500 to do various public events and education. This was brought before the Select Board in September, and the Select Board approved, what would end up being a $65,535 increase over the requested amount of 20. Subcommittee approved or supported this. Obviously, we don't approve it because the Select Board already approved the addition to the budget, but the subcommittee supports that.
Wait, support's going from?
Going from $20,000 to $85,535.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I believe that number should be 105, which would be the original $20,000 budget that the department would put in, and then $85,000 added by the Select Board.
And I would agree with that. The tree maintenance current budget is $20,000. So the $85,535
Yeah,
would be in
I
addition
keep
to
forgetting
that.
I have a question. Is this like a one-time thing?
So parts of it are one-time. There's a $50,000 increase in the first year, and that's for the chipper body and the water tank truck insert.
Okay.
So that's a capital expense that's only anticipated to be a one-year expense.
Okay.
So those two items are $50,000. So going forward, the number, the annual request in the short term will be somewhere around $15,000 to $20,000.
So,
Mostly for the inventory and to buy stock, tree stock to plant around town.
so you kind of just don't need, I suppose we're going to vote on it, but kind of a moot point since it's already been approved?
Yes, but
Vote
we
on
have
by
to
selectmen.
vote for it to be added into the budget. So select boards approved the concept, and they've approved it getting added to the budget, but since we're the recommendations committee, we'll vote to approve to recommend back to them what they already approved.
Okay, all right, so the question I have is always, when I think about other things, is for the staff, and it's all good stuff, but do they have time to do the work?
Yes, we're doing it now.
Okay, so the additional things on the list that
It
they
would
want to
actually
do?
save us time because we're doing with a little the watering now rather than tank, and we're using a glue tarp as a chipper body, putting it on and off. So it actually saves time.
So the equipment will save you time. But yeah, I was talking like additional plantings and all that other stuff. That's, as long as you guys have time to do it all.
Yep.
Because I know sometimes when we add something to a budget for something that we want for the town, and then we're short-staffed everywhere, so the projects don't get done. So as long as it's also doable, that's great. Thank
The
you.
good news, we just had a new highway hire in the last couple of days.
Hey!
We're actually
Yay!
up to full staff in highway, which is a nice accomplishment. So,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Just, great, you just, first of all, I'm very excited about the tree thing, so I'll come back to that. And you just answered my question about staffing for highway, so that's great. And I'm very excited about tree maintenance and tree upgrades. So am I to understand we're going to be making a motion to change some numbers here
Yes.
shortly? And then also some of that's going to go into capital outlay or something like that? No,
No.
it's all going to be on that line?
They'll all be in that line.
Okay, thank you.
Before we get to that, we'll do the health insurance for highways and streets. Corey?
Yes. Highway health insurance, new number 180,623, 180,623. Dental insurance, 16,048, 16048. Life insurance, 597.
For a new benefits total?
Of 364,263, 364,263.
Okay.
And if I may, follow up on something that Dr. Swan said.
Yeah,
You may.
So,
because I wanted to follow up on that too.
so we
follow his follow-up.
did discuss and we took $50,000 out of the tree maintenance and moved it down to capital outlay to represent the vehicle purchase.
Thank
so
you.
that it wouldn't be part of that operational number next year.
Yeah.
So the highway tree maintenance number should be 55,535, and the highway capital outlay equipment, which is the very last line in highway, would be 50,000 for the total of 105.35.
So instead of 750, it's going to be 805 for capital outlay?
What line is that? Sorry.
Capital outlay is on the next page.
Yeah, it's a straight
Should be 800.
55284.
Oh, right.
So that would be page 22, line,
Okay.
about 5 lines down.
55284.
Yeah, it actually doesn't have a line number
Yeah, would that be
because it's
a
capital
new
outlay.
line for tree committee equipment?
Bless you.
So we just added it to 57006 highway capital outlay equipment, and it would be a one-time where we would do other, in other years, we'd use it for other capital outlays, but this year we're putting it there. I think someone on the committee had recommended pulling it out of the tree operations, so that didn't look like it was supposed to be elevated for years
Okay,
on end.
we'll see if we can get that right the first time. Any further questions?
I have a question, which may be better answered in a different committee or department, but I'll bring it up. I'm just curious how trees are selected. Do we refer to a list of species and varieties that are desired?
We have a list of street trees
Yeah.
that will survive in the urban environment.
Right. My other question, somewhat related, is related to the weed control line. Do we have a policy about invasive species or a guideline, a list of absolute no-go plants that we would not plant in the town, perhaps from the state?
Not at this point. Well, the state has a list.
Yeah, but not for the town.
But you would follow the state list.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's very comprehensive, the state list.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Any further questions? Okay, under highway and streets, I will make a motion to change the tree maintenance budget 55310 to an FY '24 preliminary budget of $55,535.
Second.
Further discussion?
Repeat that figure again, please.
$55,535 instead of what is shown here at $25,000. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. So that would bring the general expenses total to
248,236. 248,236.
I will move that number.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay, on to page 22, still in highways and streets. As I mentioned, the road paving has been ongoing, certainly since June, when we had updated numbers. As many of you know who have been out in cars the last couple of months, Epping Road has been repaved, and earlier in the year, Linden Street work was complete as well. And there are a number of other small projects. Do you have a year-to-date on that line, Corey?
On our paving?
55251.
Yeah, if you want to give me just a moment, Mr. Chair, I'll pull that up in the software system.
It's probably a good time to mention too that when the team reviewed the original budget of Public Works, we already have made reductions in the amount of $210,595. So that's just something to know for context.
In paving?
In general.
Paving was 100,000 of that amount.
Oh.
So the original request was 800. But that was just, given general budget considerations and where we are with the budget, we made some proposed reductions in that budget.
Since we're stalling for Corey, if I may, I see the actual, I'm on paving right now, 55251. Actual amount was, 2022 was $470,000, correct? But we were shooting for 800 and now we chopped it down to 700?
We encumbered
Correct?
money to finish Linden Street.
Yeah.
The cold and the cold weather beat us to finish it.
And did that include, and does the most recent paving also include the Salem Street project, finishing that out?
No, that was-
Because I understand that the finish coat was not included in the original
Original bond?
bond. Is that true, or is that correct? I don't want to get into weeds on it, but I was just curious how the numbers added up relative to paving.
Yeah, Paul Velocich, the interim public works director. We had funds left over from the Salem Street project, and we had Bella Flynn, our contractor, come in and pave that with some of the remaining funds that we had from the CIP project.
So the original bond did not include it, but there were funds left over, and so you were able to do it. Is that correct?
Yes.
The final.
And the reason it didn't include it is we wanted to wait, but the project took so long that it made sense that we could go ahead and pave again.
Yeah. Great. Thank you.
So the story is we encumbered about $330,000 out of 2022 into this budget. So we had $1,030,000 in the budget for 2023, and we've spent $690,000.
Wow.
Including spending encumbrances and what's left on open POs.
So 600 and what?
690. We have about 340,000 left in the line.
And there's work ongoing, right, Jay?
Yes, there is.
I'm all for, man.
Sure.
I'm all for paving, which is kind of nice, but it seems like in some ways the numbers are high right now relative to paving, even with the 100,000 less. Just a thought. What do you think?
I know we've traditionally had around 850,000 in that line item, and we've spent it over the years, so the plan is to spend it down. We'll certainly do more paving, as Jay alluded to, so I think we'll spend the money that we have.
Chris?
Yeah, I certainly, I don't support any more cuts to it because it's, it's expensive as it is, so it's hard to imagine what you actually accomplish with $800,000 for an entire town. But is it just because of just running out of time or staff or anything to get the projects done that it wasn't all spent down?
No, we're still working on it. We're actually milling today and working in Heritage Way and Colonial Drive all this week and next week.
You're still able to do that with the weather getting this cold?
Yeah.
Wow.
As long as the pavement temperature's up and it's staying up.
Okay, cool. So money's gonna be spent. Yay. Roads will be done.
Unless it snows.
Yeah, if
Well, if it's for roads, it's good. We want to get that spent.
If you look in tab 3, we've come close to 800,000 several times, and we're generally at least up around 700,000. So, Jay, in my experience in 15 years, Jay does a great job of managing this account.
Is there,
And if there's money left over, it's generally due to weather, not any other reason.
Jay, is there a sense that we're gaining on this, or are we never going to fully gain on this, or what's the sense?
We're gaining.
We're gaining, aren't we?
Yeah.
I think so too. Right.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on that line or other capital outlay lines?
Do we need to make a change in the capital outlay line in terms of a vote?
We do. Okay, sorry. Thank you. We will be adding, or Corey has added a new line 57006 for highway capital equipment, which in this case would be specific to the tree equipment. that we had just talked about. And I will move an amount, we're adding 50,000 from the General Tree Committee proposal to the current 750,000 that is shown, for a total of $800,000. And I will move that number.
Second?
Discussion?
Discussion?
So I'm a little bit slow on this one. Can you just point me towards what the initial 750 is about?
The 750 is a total of road paving, culvert replacement.
Okay, oh, I see that way. Yeah, okay, all right. It's been a long day, got it. Thank you. Yeah, I get it now.
There isn't a note at the top that talks about capital outlay.
Yeah, that's why I was a little confused.
It all is.
Okay, got it. Yeah, I see.
Any further questions? Been moved and seconded for a budget of $800,000 for capital outlay. That includes the road paving budget as well as the new tree equipment. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And a new highway and streets total, Corey?
2,200,954. 2200954.
And I will move that number.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Do you have a new percentage on that, Corey?
Give me just a moment.
Looks like it's probably up about, what, 0.6%?
Over prior year. Hold on one sec, right?
No, 0.3%.
.28.
Oh.
Great. Okay, on to snow removal. Since a lot of this is, contracted services and expenses, there's no specific healthcare in this item. The committee looked at, the subcommittee looked at the sort of the disparity between 55061 contracted snow removal, which is basically when we get a lot of snow, we hire people to scoop it generally from downtown and take it somewhere, at least generally out of town. And then we also looked at the salt budget, which includes overall de-icing agents as well as salt, and see that that is traditionally way overspent. And we talked to Jay about sort of normalizing those. There wouldn't be a net change, but the subcommittee just thought that reducing the contracted snow amount by, in our opinion, $20,000 and increasing the salt budget by the same $20,000 would more accurately reflect what has happened over the past 5 or 6 years. Of course, this year we'll get 4 feet of snow.
Yeah.
But
Just jinxed it.
in Jay's defense, he did suggest we wait 1 more year before we make the change, but in our opinion, we haven't come close to spending the contracted snow removal for several years, so that's what we decided to do. Any questions on that? Or comments? Jay? Just, I mean,
Roll of the dice.
We're not taking, it's a roll of the dice.
Yeah, depends on the weather.
Bob,
Yes.
I have a question about liability. When you hire contractors to do the plowing,
Right.
and they do damage to private property, and the private property owner tries to get some accountability from the town, our experience in our association is the town wipes its hands and says it wasn't us.
I am not sure what you're talking about. We usually try to facilitate that through the contractor. And it's, if they hit private property, it would go through their insurance. But
Pardon?
it would go through the contractor's insurance. They're all required to have liability insurance on file with us. So we try to facilitate any issues, and I am not sure what you're talking about or any individual claim that was made. But we try.
That has been our association experience, is that when there's been damage to the property and the association went to the town to try to get redress, it ended there with the town saying, wasn't us, it was a contractor.
I'm not aware of the
So
timing.
what would be the procedure?
So typically what would happen is if, like Jay said, if it was a private plow, we would go through the contractor's insurance, but it would originate as a claim through our town's insurer, through Primex, and then we would put the claim through, and then they would assign a claims representative to it, and then we would work through that process that way. But this is the first I'm hearing of it as well, so, but I'm happy to talk with you further offline about it.
Okay.
Just to make sure that the process is being followed,
Thank you.
that meets your expectations.
I'm sure other property owners, would just like to know the procedure, should it happen to them.
Well,
Thank you.
as a follow-up to that, because I actually had flagged it as well, I'm guessing, it is what it is. The snow needs to be removed, and if the town doesn't have the staffing to do it, you got to pay contractors to do it. But I just had this gut sense that maybe the contractors don't quite know where the boulders are and the curbs are, and that they're maybe a little bit more likely to damage, never mind private property, there's just town property in the street. And I'm guessing that the DPW would rather do it themselves. Is that a fair?
I think we're talking about two different things. Snow removal, which would be hauling the snow from the downtown areas. And
is
then
different than the
contracted-
plowing.
Different than the plowing.
Oh,
The
okay.
contracted plowing, the drivers are very familiar with their routes. They go over them before the season
Yeah.
even begins, so they're familiarized with them.
Yeah.
But we don't possibly have the resources to put out plow
Yeah.
stakes everywhere.
Yeah.
So a lot of folks do, and they're pretty good. They don't really cause a lot of damage.
Yeah.
The select board has a mailbox policy that will repair the mailboxes, and there's a list each year that we keep that we go out and repair. It's mostly lawns.
Yeah, I'm just thinking more about curbs and things of that sort, but you're absolutely right. I was thinking about snow plowing more so than snow removal, so I apologize.
Okay.
So on behalf of the subcommittee, I will move a new budget for 55061, contracted snow removal of $25,000.
Second?
Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And on line 55258, we'll move on behalf of the subcommittee to increase that by the same $20,000 to $80,000.
I see.
Second?
So there'll be no net change to the overall budget, just a sort of a re-accounting. Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And a new snow removal budget, Core?
Sure, 314,696,
Should be the same.
314,696.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Well, I guess we have to move and second it, sorry. I will move that number.
Second?
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. On to solid waste. Again, since a lot of this is contracted services and general expenses, there are not any health benefits. If you look down about halfway through, a little over half, 55150, household hazardous waste, the town hosts 6 other communities, and then 7 including ours. generally in October. So that event occurred after our actuals came out and this budget came out, but that, generally, the expenses over the past several years are around $30,000 to $35,000, so that will stay at $30,000. Yes.
I just wanted to mention on this page, it's really nice how several of these say, comma, offset by revenue. And that just, maybe that's a model for the stuff we were talking about last week. Like, this budget really is clear about that.
We had,
Get confused.
the subcommittee had a question on landfill monitoring, 55163. That just, sort of keeps going up. Is that, and Jay had mentioned that we had a breakout in the slope. Is that what this increase is for, or is it for something else?
There's 3 companies that do the monitoring. It's parsed out in different ways. And this was my first year of trying to understand what was going on. And this number that you see is the totality of those 3 put together, knowing that we still had one more laboratory results to pay for still. And I think we were able to have very minimal work done by the consultants for the settlement issue. So I think this is
Mostly lab work.
the settlement, yeah, this is the monitoring part of it, and very little was because of the settlement issue. And I think this is the number we'll be looking at next year.
Holy cow. That's bad news.
The settlement was we did that in-house.
Yeah.
We did the one.
Just the cost of this monitoring is just like going up rapidly.
Yeah, who knew that having unlined landfills back in the day was so expensive?
Well, right.
What else in this? That was really the only the more observations in this budget, the solid waste budget. Any comments or questions on the solid waste budget?
What, may I ask?
Sure.
What is white goods on the metals
Like stoves
line?
and dishwashers and washers and dryers.
Got it.
Literally goods that are white. It's a very, very creative and insightful nomenclature for solid waste. So
this landfill monitoring thing, is it just something we're just going to keep like monitoring for perpetuity and just throwing more and more money at that to just keep monitoring it? Obviously by some mandate.
And DES requires it, so we're going to have to continue to do this. And we're always testing for more things as well.
Until something really bad comes up in the testing, and then we'll spend more money then? Is that how that goes, or what? This is pretty typical for landfills in all municipalities, or what?
Yes,
or we just got a particularly bad one, or what?
No, monitoring requirements are pretty much par for the course around the state and in the region. Once, like Bob alluded to, once the unlined landfills were closed, basically, and capped, the monitoring requirements kick in, and they're permanently affixed to the site. So we have to report those every year.
Okay.
And the costs do increase. And again, as we test for more things, obviously the costs are going to increase as well. And professional service contracts have gone up. There's some variability you see throughout this budget in terms of how much they go up, but some disciplines go up more than others. And this is one of those disciplines.
And we did add PFAS to the
Yeah, of course, I see
just
that.
last year, so that increased it quite a bit.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, one question.
Andrew,
Just out of curiosity, isn't this where the solar project's supposed to go, the landfill? Somewhere?
what's that?
The solar project that's underway?
Yes,
It's somewhere there?
yes.
Yeah.
Any way to roll this into that project? Since you're going to have quite a lot of analytical equipment that's going to be needed to be put in place for that large project anyways?
I think they're sort of apples and oranges. They're both fruit, but they're sort of apples, I think. Both fruit.
That wasn't in the four
No fruit
corners of the
salad?
solar array article
Right.
for additional landfill monitoring,
Right.
so wouldn't meet the smell test.
So to speak. Okay, so I'm assuming the budget is the same, 1.488 and change?
That's correct. Yep.
Wonderful.
1,488,354.
I will move the budget as presented.
Second?
Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay, streetlights. More, again, just an observation. We converted to LED light bulbs in 2019. There was a 5-year pay down that we negotiated with Unitil. So for next year's budget into 2025, we should see a significant reduction in this amount.
So we're anticipating a drop of about $20,000 in the FY25 budget, once that book value is paid off through Unitil for the lights.
Excellent.
Yippee.
Any other questions on streetlights? I will move a budget of $169,000 for that.
Oh, pardon me, Mr. Chair?
Go we
Maybe
second
during
for
this-
discussion?
Second and then discussion.
Thank you. Go for it.
Just a minor housekeeping thing, because we skipped by traffic light maintenance. Green Street? Traffic lights?
Green Hill traffic light.
Green Hill?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, because I Googled Green Street and I was like,
Yeah.
it doesn't seem
Not
like.
Green Street, it's Green Hill.
Okay, yeah, all right, fine, thank you.
That's where the Walgreens is?
Yes.
Okay, that figure. All right,
Never remember the name of that street. I've been down it like
Good.
thousands of times.
sorry.
If you ask me, put money on, I don't know.
The only way I know the name of that street is if you listen to Walgreens commercials on the radio, then they say,
You call the Walgreens, you hear it every time.
yeah,
At the
it's like,
corner,
where is that?
4th Avenue, right?
Where is that?
All right, thank you.
Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
All right.
On to stormwater. So again, more observations, not necessarily changes. As you can see, contracted services and catch basin replacement, I think, are still at zero or very, very little. And the reason for this is twofold. One is staff availability as well as contractor availability to do this work. You know, this was a relatively new budget item last year, and Jay did a bunch, or he and his crew did a bunch of work, improved about 7 or 8 catch basins around town, and that was the plan this year. You talked about possibly encumbering some money into next year. Is that still part of a plan?
Yes.
So this,
Get a contractor this year to work with us.
I mean, the short answer is the work is out there, so it didn't seem fair to the subcommittee to reduce this after 1 year without sort of seeing how the contractor and staff situation shook out over the next year. You know, if this goes a few years, then we had talked to Jay about considering maybe a warrant article to do like sort of like the meters a few years ago, where we just do a bunch of these over the course of a year or two, you know, with a contractor, but we're not there yet.
We presently have 51,000 encumbered under contract services.
Thank you. Great. Any comments or questions about stormwater? I will move a budget for the stormwater division, $92,360.
Second?
Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And a subtotal before maintenance. Corey?
$4,843,556. 4843556.
I will move that budget number.
Second?
Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. On to Public Works Maintenance on page 25. And this includes basically all the work that Jeff Beck oversees, as well as vehicles and other things related to maintenance of all the town buildings, as well as various projects internal to those buildings. As you'll note in the salaries full-time, 51110, that there was an unfilled HVAC plumber that had been unfilled for a few years, right? I think?
Yes.
A number of years, so we pulled that from the budget because it did not appear that that was going to happen, so staff has been sort of backfilling that position since.
One thing I would point out at this juncture is when we sat with DPW, as town manager alluded to, they were, gracious to go through the budget and cut where they could, and this was one of the positions that I think they weren't super happy to do, but acknowledge that it's been a few years and it's challenging to fill the positions. So all that being said, I wouldn't expect these cuts to live on forever. Eventually,
Right.
They're going to need to replenish their budgets when things kind of start to pick up again. So point that out.
When the job market improves, and this position might be put back in. Would you like to do the updated health insurance numbers, Corey?
Sure. Public Works Maintenance, health insurance, new number 60,262, 60262. Dental insurance, 4,756, 4756. Life insurance, $230.
For a new benefits total?
124,401, 124,401.
Okay. The only item really that the subcommittee had in this section was the fire safety down at the bottom, 55392. It continues to be somewhat underspent. This is a new, let's say, responsibility for the maintenance department. It used to be under the fire department. And, it's basically managing, as it says, managing the fire alarms around town. And, Jeff has indicated that there's still a lot of work to be done, but that the scope of what they thought they would have to do last year when the $18,000 budget was set was a little bit less. And so we'll sort of continue a learning curve with that, but didn't want to reduce it too much.
We expect to get close to 15,000-ish. I see an actual of 3,739.
Yeah, you had said there's some work still to be done this year.
There is
right?
some work still to be done this year, between now and the end of the year. And also, some of the work that we've done this year has come from the maintenance projects and another water account due to the fact that we were tracking those items that we did through the Department of Labor audit were tracked on a different account. So that's just the way that we paid for those things so that we could hold on to them that way. So I would expect that this might have had a certain percentage higher taken out of it had those issues not been pointed out by the Department of Labor and been paid for out of another account.
Yeah, thank you.
So
Current spending is $7,100.
and we still have quarterly
updates through the end of the year for all of the monitoring of all of the alarms in town.
Thank you.
Any further questions on this area, Public Works Maintenance?
And just one more note on that, this is another one of the line items that we reduced by 3,000.
Right.
For the coming year.
So if I'm hearing Jeff correctly, actually, we could reduce that line a couple more thousand?
I think there was a reluctance to reduce it too much because there's still a lot of work to be done. And again, this is sort of uncharted territory. The 18,000 was based on discussions with the fire department last year when it was a new line, based on discussions with the fire department and various alarm companies. So we didn't really know exactly what we were budgeting it at, but based on conversations, 18 was reasonable. And, so far they found that it's probably going to be less, but again, we don't want to reduce it too much because we don't know what we don't know quite yet. After next year or so, we probably will have a much better handle on it.
We'll have a trend.
We'll have a better snapshot
Right.
of exactly where we stand with the budget.
Okay.
So that's could we reduce it to 10 or 12? Yeah, probably, but we'd be,
Yeah.
again, since we just started the line last year, it seems sort of premature to do that. We don't really, as Russ said, we don't really have a trend yet outside of what's happening this year.
And given Jeff's comments about the impact of the DOL audit, we could be looking at a skewed number right now as well.
Right. So a new general maintenance total, Corey?
Yes, 537,349. 537,349.
I'll move that number.
Second?
Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. So if you look on the next page, town buildings and maintenance projects, line, well, it's not really a separate line, but town buildings, building maintenance is a budget of $79,500, and the maintenance projects budget is $100,000. And what we've done over the past, as long as I can remember, years, is we've given the maintenance folks a pot of money of generally $100,000 based on a list that they have. And the list obviously keeps, it's a very fluid list. We fix stuff and, it's a 300-year-old town, so things break. And the buildings are, some of them over 100 years old. So there's always maintenance projects to do and maintenance on the various town buildings. This year, it's somewhat underspent, but again, as before, it's generally due to, that we're down staff as well as non-availability of contractors to do this work. We've tried to hire, some carpenters and electricians and things like that to, from outside to do some of the work, and, they're busy making money on housing developments. So there was a reluctance on the part of the subcommittee to reduce these budgets, even though it looks like they'll probably be underspent by, $20,000 to $30,000. So the thought was to, again, give the department as much capability as possible with the funding, and then hopefully the labor situation will get fixed over the next year. Is that a fair summary of our discussions?
Yeah, definitely. And we also, this is another, the maintenance projects list for this year, the proposed list that we put out last year was hijacked by the Department of Labor audit. And there are several high-dollar projects on that list that we will be following up with at the first of next year once we complete the other work that we have on schedule now. So
Can you explain that? The Department of Labor hijacked the projects? What does that mean?
With their audit and introducing all these new requirements into the mix. And Jeff and his team have had to implement a lot of those. So it's eaten up the dollars that were originally assigned for other maintenance projects. So it just created more of a backlog, essentially.
So that, any remaining funds from this year or any unspent funds from this year will be encumbered to further those projects for next year.
Don?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, because I was curious about that. I've heard rumblings of this horrible audit.
Well, it wasn't, it's not horrible. I think in a way, it's probably a good thing.
Okay.
You know, but it was a surprise. That's just a surprise and a surprise expense for us. But we were able to cope and work through it. So we're continuing that, and there are several pieces of it that will be continuing for the next couple of months and possibly into the first of next year. But also, we had other projects planned, and we have upcoming projects planned for '24. So those, you know, we're going to try and use our money wisely to get those more important pieces done, and it'll filter down as everything does.
So regarding those items that are on this audit, are they reflected, or could they even be reflected in budget lines or in the 2023 budget, our current year budget? Or how is that being handled budget-wise? I mean, or are funds being encumbered or assigned?
I know some of it is coming from the building maintenance budgets. We're doing some of the work that way.
Righto. So there are funds in that line for building maintenance that are going to be encumbered based on this
could be
DOL audit.
Yes, could be.
And similarly, maybe the maintenance project $100,000 fund.
Yes.
Are they going to be encumbered in time for this year to be applied to the 2023 budget? Or am I confused here?
I know, I'm confused.
Any remaining funds this year in the maintenance projects fund will be encumbered in order to move forward with the projects that were backlogged from this year, the proposed projects that were backlogged. We will encumber the remaining funds in maintenance projects in order to cover those projects, or at least try.
Do you have to do that before January 1st?
Before January 1st, yes.
That's what I thought, because I heard you say after January 1st.
Oh, no, I was talking about something different. After January 1st, we may still have a few of those projects outlined by the Department of Labor we'll be working on.
Yeah, okay. All right, I think I understand it.
Can I just ask, how does this line 55177, the maintenance projects, is usually about 100,000, how does that relate to the items up above, town buildings, building maintenance, the natural gas, electricity, et cetera? When you're doing a project on a town building, there are some lines where that work goes, or it may go under maintenance project.
The building maintenance for the individual buildings, those building maintenance funds are for regular upkeep and maintenance of the buildings and systems. The maintenance projects fund is for special projects or larger projects that would decimate a building maintenance fund. Just off the top of my head, you know, if we had a boiler go out or something in one of the buildings, that's the total maintenance budget for that building. If we had a problem with a water heater or some part of the plumbing system, or the building maintenance fund is generally earmarked for the same things you would have a maintenance fund for your home earmarked for some painting you knew needed to be done, updating an office space and things of that nature. And then the maintenance projects fund is for bigger projects, larger projects that we've actually had a facilities condition assessment done this year, and it pointed out a lot of projects that we're actually populating some of the maintenance projects list with 424. And and going forward. We had a few projects already on the 23 list that we'll be carrying over also, because we have a backlog now.
So, and as an example, in the maintenance projects list for 24, we've got one project that's $10,000, one project that's $24,000, one project that's $25,000. So the scope is generally bigger from the maintenance project side of the house. It's a capital, more of a capital
outlay like
item
thing, yeah.
than it is an operating expense item.
Thank you.
So,
I think one of the examples a few years ago was like if you had to improve the stairs, let's say, going into a building, that would be building maintenance. But if you had to convert them to an ADA, acceptable stair well, then that would be part of the maintenance project. It wouldn't be
Or-
standard maintenance, it would be something over and above.
Or like an upgrade or something. yeah.
And something that was front and center a couple of years ago was the work that was done on the top of the town hall on the
Right.
cupola. That was a maintenance project that happened during COVID.
Big P, little p.
That still happened.
And the recent installation of the town hall, which was an energy efficiency project, that was done in 2020.
Yeah,
2022,
and
right.
came out of the maintenance projects account as well.
And that was
The larger expense.
approximately about $24,000.
So as Jeff alluded to, that we did just complete a facilities assessment that was approved last year. Is that a CIP item or budget item?
It was a warrant article,
Warrant article.
$45,000.
Right, so that is completed, and my understanding is that's highlighted about $740,000 worth of projects that need to be done, and we've budgeted 79.5 plus 100. So 100, so we didn't feel it was quite right, even though these are underspent, to go in that wrong direction with supporting Jeff and his crew on trying to do the maintenance that outside contractors or consultants have advised us to pay attention to. So, any further questions on town buildings or maintenance projects?
I'd just add quickly, Bob.
Sure.
The select board got a presentation from the contractor this week on that facilities assessment, and it's about a 25-minute presentation, but it takes you through how they got to their 750 number and all, so it's interesting.
So that's on the website then?
That's right.
Yeah, and there's a binder with the report,
The
the
TV went
various
down in the middle
reports.
of it.
Oh, but there's a binder.
There's a binder
There
in we have one in the town manager's office. There's one.
Is that document, it's a document, is it going to be on the website eventually?
It is on the
It is
website.
on the website, yes.
Okay.
Sam, was your meeting?
There is a more complete report than the select board got that was given to the Facilities Assessment Committee back in August or September. So if you want to see the even more complete report from Bureau Veritas, the contractor, you can get it on the Facilities Committee.
But the select board presentation, there's gonna be a gap in. Bob Glacki came out and tried to catch as much as he could, but there will be a gap in.
So I will make a motion for a budget of town maintenance buildings total $935,308.
Second.
Mr. Chair, I have 940,959.
Ooh,
What,
changed.
yeah, why would that be different than what we have?
Put your number real quick.
Because we didn't change anything.
I hear that, I say, it was time to wake up. What time is it? Where do I have to be?
We should be awake right now.
It's not my alarm.
You want to just go down the lines? I mean, there's only 8 lines.
531.
Sure it was the train station. I'm sure it was the train station. It seemed to get us everywhere.
Hey, while we're stalling, I was I took the train for the first time.
First time?
Yeah, it was quite exciting, but there was a little bit of grousing about, wouldn't it be lovely if we had an even greater train station? And I'm thinking to myself on the budget committee, like, if you only knew that we actually, as a town and taxpayers, what we already spend on this.
Right.
I mean, obviously, I'd love an even better train station, but I just thought that was kind of amusing. As I was looking at the numbers, I go, there you go, $23,000 in just in insurance.
Right.
Yeah, we actually have a working group too together right now that's pursuing grants through the Downeaster Northern New England Passenger Rail Authority as well. So you'll be hearing more about that in the near future.
Great. Yeah.
So, Mr. Chair, it ends up being the benefits from above, because that plays into that bottom line.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The benefits.
So
from the general budget.
Right, so that total maintenance / buildings encompasses the general maintenance total of 537, 349, total buildings of the 303, 611, plus the $100,000 maintenance project. And in that 537 above, we had the change to the health, dental, and life insurance.
Wait a moment.
Okay. So what is it again? 940?
I see.
940,959, 940,959.
So I withdraw my motion for 935,308. Ton, if you would
Yeah, I'll
withdraw your
withdraw my
second, and I will
thank you.
make a motion for 940,959.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. The only item we had on mechanics garage was more of an observation, fuel dispensing system, 55129. This is basically a line to get our annual testing by the state, weights and measures, which happened in October of this year. And they found a few things, minor things that needed to be updated, but nothing really catastrophic. So we passed effectively, even though it's an old system.
Can you knock wood, Bob?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll be seeing funds, the year-to-date being spent in the next month or so when that bill is.
Are we fully staffed in the garage?
No,
No. So it says 3 full-time, but
we only have 2 at the moment. Did interview someone today, so hopefully,
Okay.
fingers crossed.
okay.
Not superstitious, though.
Yeah.
Knock on that wood again.
Okay, so health insurance for mechanics and garage, Corey?
Yes. 67,480, 67480. Dental insurance, 4,547, 4547. Life insurance, $138.
For benefits total?
109,196, 109,196.
And a new total for mechanics garage?
301,736, 301,736.
And I will move that number for mechanics and garage.
Second?
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And a new public works budget, Corey.
Okay, wow.
Total public works, 6,086,251, 6,086,251.
And I will move that number.
Second?
So what is the new, is that about 2.5%?
3.65.
Sorry, what was that?
3.65.
Thank you.
Percent.
All those in favor of that budget signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
And Corey, that was 3.65 or 2?
For 3.65.
Thank you.
So we won't be discussing in detail vehicles or CIP tonight, but just to keep everyone up to date on the subcommittee's discussions, there are 3 vehicles that Public Works had requested. All are currently on the town manager's deferment list.
The compressor?
Just of note, on the sidewalk tractor 58, it's pretty old, but we did just buy a new one last year, or this year, actually. It was approved last year, number 57. So we thought we would try to go a few more years with it, since one of them is going to be new. The only, I guess, discussion with the street sweeper, this is a piece of equipment that's used literally every day and has a lot of hours on it. Very, very difficult conditions, basically sweeping up grit and all the other crap at the side of roads, and it helps us comply with our MS4 stormwater permit. We supported the placement on the deferment list, but this is a piece of equipment that we're going to have to buy pretty soon, in the next year or two, probably.
And I should say, Bob, to the committee, again, when we looked at all of these in context of the overall budget scenario, obviously recommendations are being made they're hard recommendations.
Very hard.
And I feel like we went through everything with a fine-tooth comb as much as we could, given the budget conditions that we have. So even though this list is fairly significant, the hope is in 2025 we can start to eat away at some of these deferrals and bring them back in the context of the 25 budget.
Excellent, thank you.
I have a question.
Wait, Tom. Go ahead, Chris.
Nope, he's first, I like it. So I would just like to know from the staff, any of these items that have been recommended for deferment, is there any concern that they're just gonna crap out on you this year and like we'll be forced to buy something? Because I know we do a lot of deferring and saying, well, let's just try to keep it together. Is there concerns that any of these that been recommended to defer is something that you have real concerns about? No? I think I'll hang in there.
Jay says we can get by.
Thank you, Jay.
As he always does.
A similar question, Mr. Chair. Specifically, Mr. Beck, about the street sweeper. You characterized it as very old, 2015. I'm sure it's a very high wear and tear vehicle, so I'm guessing that's old in the context of that vehicle,
Yes.
because 8 years doesn't seem that old to me.
Average lifespan on a street sweeper is 5 to 7 years, average replacement.
Oh.
And ours has, those hours on it now. And it has had a few operators in its lifetime, and changing operators in a piece of equipment like that, there's a learning curve to using it.
Ooh.
And that creates a little bit more wear and tear. Just through that learning cycle.
Yeah.
So, as you can imagine, that being said, it's at that point now. And if something breaks, we'll fix it.
Thank you for that. And it's our one and only street sweeper?
It is.
And, with fire equipment, there's a 2-year build out on these things. How is that with street sweepers? How's the pipeline? How's the street sweeper pipeline?
There have been a few available here and there. Either late model or demonstrator units in the past several months that we've seen. This particular unit that we have now has been very good to us and has been everything it was sold to be. We like the unit. We like the care and maintenance of the unit. It's easy to work on. It's easy to maintain.
Nice.
So
It's like the Hondas of street sweepers.
All that being said, it's, we can, like Jay says.
Yeah.
We can get.
Sounds like it's going to be on next year's shopping list.
Yes, and when
Oh,
it's,
yes.
when, I would say too, just coming into 2025, when this is brought back, we will in all likelihood recommend the street sweeper that we do have stay with us.
Yeah.
Instead of being traded, so we have two, and we can utilize one as like a reserve ambulance or an engine.
Yeah.
It's good to have a second sweeper around.
And
As Jeff said, this has been a good model to us and it's worked well.
worst case scenario, if this thing totally craps up before we purchase a new one, given the MS4 requirements and all that, we would then have to borrow one somewhere?
Well, there is, there are contractors out there
Yeah.
that we could bring in
Yeah.
to do some of that work and pick up the slack. That would be, at cost. And there are also we may be able to rent or short-term lease a unit while ours is being repaired or while we're repairing ours, should that occur.
Okay, thank you.
And this particular unit has been in this company's stable for several years. There's a lot of standard equipment on it, so it's not real difficult to get parts for at this point.
Thank you.
So on warrant articles and CIP items, the first three we'll discuss in more detail in November, or in a couple of weeks on CIP night. But I wanted to highlight two items that the subcommittee spent a lot of time talking about. And really, I would hope that the rest of the committee would sort of drill down on these and really have some thoughts on them. One of which is school street improvements. So I'm shown on page 22. This will be our third $6 million utility project in the last 4 years. We did Salem Street, which the construction just finished up. We approved that 4 years ago. Last year, we approved West Side Drive, which is currently in design. This would be a back-to-back with West Side Drive. The issue here is that there's a 35% principal forgiveness grant that's available from DES for the sewer construction only, which calculations show that to be about $750,000. So it's a $6.5 million project. We'd be able to reduce that by about $750,000. The thinking is, even though it's a lot of money, that if we wait another year or two, the construction costs are probably going to go up $750,000, if not $1 million. So now we're going to be down, $1.5 million, or it's going to be more like, a $7.5 to $8 million project versus $6.5 million. So the thinking was, with this kind of free money, and according to Melissa Roy, the assistant town manager, it's anybody's guess as to whether any of this money would be available next year, because federal money is dwindling, from its peak a couple of years ago. So the committee and also the Water and Sewer Subcommittee is still considering this, but our inclination is to put this, even though it's a lot of money, put it on the warrant just because we'd be getting that $750,000 forgiveness. So if you could just ruminate on that. The second one is the sidewalk program. This is currently on the deferment list. We generally try to put somewhere around $200,000 a year in the capital recovery fund for the sidewalks, so we can continue to upgrade those, as well as what Jay does on the paving. Again, it's a lot of money. We have a lot of things that on the warrant that have let's say, a higher priority. However, the thinking by the subcommittee is we really don't want to make this zero. So we're wrestling as a subcommittee on what this number might be. So we would ask that you do the same. If it's zero, it's zero. But the thinking is this is an important program in town. and it might be worth considering something else, whatever that might be.
Yeah, I'm just going to speak up for this one because I know in my neighborhood that off of, I guess, Tamarind, they've been waiting on a sidewalk for, I don't know, beginning of time, and it's kind of ridiculous.
You're talking along Kingston Road?
Yeah, so, put this to zero, I think is just shameful. Because
So if you look
it's
at-
been promised for.
If you look at
forever.
page 23, to Chris's point, and we've done a boatload of work on sidewalks in the last 10 years, and we've added, sometimes we've been able to add 80. We had a big warrant article in 15, sometimes it's as little as 20,000 that we've added. Corey tells me there's a little less than $148,000 currently in the fund, but Jay is sort of continuing to do, work in town, so. I don't think that fund has ever been significantly more than $150,000, maybe $200,000 at the most. And we tend to spend it, at least 100 every year, it seems.
On average.
On average.
Definitely.
So just as something to think about, if you see the note there, Jay, correct me if I'm wrong, just from your notes, Linden Street sidewalk has been done, right? So that has been done, so that wouldn't necessarily have to be taken out of this. And then there's also some work being done at Colonial and Heritage Way that would be taken out of the paving budget in order to try to keep this fund. So again, if we would just ask that you sort of consider this, we'll be discussing it on CIP night.
Okay,
We have not made a final decision as a subcommittee.
just to give us an idea of what money we'll buy. This $296,000, that was for Linden Street sidewalk, that was on one side of Linden Street or two sides of Linden Street?
One side.
One side, so almost $300,000 to do a short street, one side.
It's close to a mile that we did.
Mr. Mile went from just a little past the Y all the way up by River Landing and Exeter River Landing up to the bridge, right? I think. Yeah, to the Exeter River Bridge.
Well, that's nice. I don't get out that way, but.
Yes, granite curb, it looks really nice. But yeah, I mean, sidewalks aren't inexpensive. And we've been trying to use granite curbing around town, one for the historical, view, the architectural aspect of it, and, cost of materials.
Yeah, and just people know that if you don't put granite curbing in, it just gets chipped away and it just falls apart. I mean, my neighborhood doesn't have any curbing and the sidewalks just looks like hell.
Right.
So they're
So,
throwing money away if you don't put curbing in.
My own notes within the CIP booklet make some reference to Planet Playground relative to this sidewalk program, which I know makes no sense, but there was some kind of discussion somewhere along the way about whether the one goes and the other one doesn't or something.
well, why don't you hold that thought?
Okay.
We could talk about it at CIP.
Okay.
And,
All right.
we were just sort of giving
Yep.
you what our thoughts were.
There's a
but-
quick answer if you want.
Quick answer would be great.
The quick answer comes from a budget narrative that we put out in September. And
Yeah.
basically, the idea was that we would take, if the grant was successful, the Land Water Conservation Fund grant
Yeah.
that is being sought for Planet Playground, we would take $297,500 from fund balance and pay for 50% of the project through that mechanism. But if the grant was unsuccessful, then the sidewalk program at $200,000 would essentially replace that.
Okay, so we're more to come.
More to come.
Got it.
Okay, so on behalf of Amanda and Andrew and myself, we'd like to thank you guys, Paul and and Jay and Jeff for meeting with us, and pass our thanks on to Tricia.
Yeah, I want to thank all the staff, because they're out there in all kinds of weather and conditions, and being short-staffed and always, asked to do more, do it, make do, and like I said, when it's a beautiful day, I wish I was working outside, but there's a lot of non-beautiful days. We had so much rain this past summer, and then I'm sure it was such a challenge to get things done, so I appreciate it.
Thank you. It's worth repeating, too, that Public Works is hiring. This is an unprecedented labor market that we're in right now, and we even have our trailer out on Portsmouth Avenue, if you've seen it, saying that we are hiring at DPW. We have 10 total vacancies right now.
Yeah.
And so we're looking to fill positions. So if you know of qualified people that are interested in working for the town, please pass that along.
I want to thank Paul for doing double duty in their town right now, seems like to me.
Yeah, how's the search going? Any report on the search?
That's a
So we have a plethora of candidates that we're sorting through right at the moment, and we expect to have interviews starting within the week.
Nice.
Yes.
Thank you, Paul.
Okay, so next Wednesday, at this time, we will be Chris Suter's subcommittee for Parks and Rec, Library, Welfare and Human Services will be discussed. Just to remind everyone, we had asked at the all-day meeting Friday previous to suss out the whole Welfare Human Service Administrator, part-time versus full-time. And last Wednesday, we were handed out this sheet from Pam that described the impacts for part-time versus full-time. So we'll be discussing that as part of Chris and her subcommittee's review of the Welfare and Human Services budget. So if you could dig that out, I would appreciate it. Any other comments or questions or observations? Dan?
I had a note that there was a meeting tomorrow night for BRC. That's not true.
No, that was a subcommittee meeting. Yeah. I will entertain a motion to adjourn until next week. So moved.
Second.
Thank you. We'll see everyone on Wednesday, November 8th. Thank you. Woo!
You need to vote on that, make sure everybody approves. If we want to stay a little longer.
While you're meeting with
Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast Channels 6 and 22. Channel 6 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 8, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv. Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.